We'll start.
Assalamu alaikum student. Today we will study topic projectile motion. Okay? Projectile motion. This is the two-dimensional motion. Okay? We have studied before this one-dimensional motion. It's mean like distance and height. Distance one-dimensional along the horizontal axis. Height one-dimensional along the vertical axis. This movement is one-dimensional movement. One dimension involved in this movement. Now we will study projectile movement. It is two-dimensional. It means this movement occurs. This movement occurs between the two axes, x-axis and y-axis. Object covering parabolic path. Object covering parabolic path. X-axis and y-axis. This movement is projectile movement, or we can define it as when object is starting movement with initial velocity v0 and in the influence of gravity. In the influence of gravity, object moving along the x and y axis, along the x and y axis. This moment and covering this distance and height, this movement is called the projectile movement. Object start movement with initial velocity v0 and acceleration due to gravity involved in the movement. In the influence of acceleration due to gravity, an object covering both distances, x and y distances, horizontal and vertical distances, this movement is known as the projectile motion or two-dimensional motion. Now, understood? Clear? What is projectile movement? Now we will study terms belong to the, after this we will study terms belong to the projectile movement. Okay? What are the terms? There are two types of terms belong to projectile. Horizontal terms, horizontal component. When object moving on a parabolic path, projectile path, it involves horizontally component velocity Vx. This Vx remain constant. This Vx remain constant during the movement. Vx remain constant. There is no change. Throughout the movement, horizontal velocity remain constant Vx. There is no change in Vx. Clear? When we solve projectile movement, horizontal component involved. What are the horizontal component? Horizontal component is Vx. It's mean initially v0 x or finally Vx. Finally Vx. Both remain constant. V0 x or Vx, final and initial, both are constant Vx. Clear? Clear? When object moving on a projectile movement covering parabolic trajectory, showing projectile movement. When object showing projectile movement, its horizontal component remain constant. Okay? There is no horizontal acceleration. No horizontal acceleration. When object moving on a projectile path, firstly velocity is constant, then secondly there is no horizontal acceleration. Object covering horizontal distance, which is x and known as range. Object covering distance x, which is known as horizontal distance x. Okay, student, what are the horizontal component? Clear? And this whole lecture we have studied about the one dimension movement, distance, horizontal, height, vertical, and secondly projectile movement, which is two-dimensional. Why we say it is two-dimensional? Because it is involved x-axis and y-axis, both axes there. Therefore it is called two-dimensional movement because it is in both axes. Clear? When object moving on a projectile on a parabolic path or in projectile movement, object covering projectile movement or object showing projectile movement, its mean object horizontal component remain constant. Acceleration due to gravity remain constant in this moment. There is no change in horizontal component and acceleration due to gravity, and initial component of velocity and final component of both are the same as Vx. We say here horizontal component of velocity is Vx. Okay, now we are coming towards the acceleration. What happened during the horizontal motion? When object moving horizontally, its acceleration remain constant. Horizontal acceleration remain constant. Thirdly, object covering horizontal distance along the x-axis covering distance. Now this distance is here. I show here. This is here from first point, and the second point. From first point to second point, its whole is x. It is known as the range of the projectile. Now I am coming towards the topic. During projectile movement, what are the vertical components? What are the vertical component? During the projectile, what are the vertical component? When object moving on a parabolic path or showing projectile movement. We have studied before this. There is no horizontal acceleration. Zero. No acceleration. Vertical component is constant. Horizontal component is constant. Horizontal component of speed is constant. These are the horizontal. Okay. Now I am coming towards what are the verticals. This is x-axis. Horizontal. This is y-axis. Vertical. When object moving on a projectile path, its initial velocity is v0, okay? And object showing angle theta along the x-axis. This is theta. Horizontal component ax 0, vx constant during the moment, okay? And total horizontal distance which object cover is x, which is known as range of the projectile. Now I am coming towards the vertical component. What are the vertical component form? Vertical component when object moving with initial velocity v0, its vertical component form initially vertical component. Initial vertical component. v0y. When object moving with this start movement, moving with this component v0y. Starting motion vertically, v0y is the vertical component of the object. When object covering height and comes at a height h, there is vertical component becomes 0. There is vertical components Vy become 0. This is the final component of velocity vertically. Final component. Vertically final component. Vertically final component when object covering height vertically. Final component Vy as 0. And initial component is formed v0y. Final component is 0. And object vertical distance is height. Vertical distance is height. Okay. When object start downward movement. Then during downward movement of the object, initial component of velocity is 0, vertical. Final vertical component, any value, showing any value. Just like here, initial component showing any value, but final component is 0. Same when object moving, similarly object moving downwardly, when downwardly during downward movement, object vertical component 0 initial vertical component 0, final vertical any value, and acceleration involved as a g. Okay, and also object covering height h, object covering vertical distance h. Now these are the something which belong to the projectile moment. Clear, student? What is projectile moment? It is two-dimensional. We have studied one-dimensional, just like distance and vertical height. These are, when we separately study these two, these are the one-dimensional component. When we study the projectile moment, it is two-dimensional moment. It is two-dimensional movement. Two-dimensional movement mean involving both axes, x-axis and y-axis. It's mean two type of component form during the projectile movement. Horizontal component and vertical component. Horizontal component form Vx, which remain constant during the whole motion. Or acceleration, there is no acceleration horizontally when object moving on a projectile path or showing projectile movement. And x component, x distance along the x-axis is called the range. Okay, secondly we coming towards the vertical component. What are the vertical component? Vertical component mean, vertical component in the condition of vertical component velocity changing. Basically velocity is v naught y, which is initial component. When object start movement, it is v naught y having a value, but object covering height finally reach at height h, then final component becomes 0. Vy is 0. When object is moving, when object is starting downward movement, what happens? In downward movement, this v naught y is 0, initial component 0, and final component becomes having any value. And height also involved. Acceleration due to gravity is also involved in the moment. Today, in today's lecture, we have studied about some properties of projectile motion. Inshallah, in our next class, we will find in projectile movement the time of flight, range of flight, height of flight. These topic, inshallah, in next lecture we will study. Okay, you subscribe my channel. Okay, when you subscribe my channel, inshallah, more videos of my lecture you get. Okay, Assalamu alaikum.